start?
Yes, please. Let's go ahead.
Okay. So before we start, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. So first of all, welcome everyone from Professional Solidarity Forum. So welcome to the series of lectures Meet the Professional. The objective was introduce a professional to arrange knowledge, their soft skills, and their experiences to other professional. So with that objective started, and today we have Mr. Khani. So we had last month we had a wonderful lecture of Mr. Khani. So with the same series, we today it will be
I guess, is it the problem with the audio to me alone, or is there any issue?
You please continue.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So shall I go ahead and continue with this? All right.
Yes.
All right. All right. Thank you. Let me share my screen and then get started. Let me know once you see my screen there.
no, we can't see your screen.
Let me share that again. All right. So, any luck on the screen?
No, sir.
Just give me one more minute. I guess there was some issue with my presentation. Just give you one more minute. I'm just about to launch it again so that you'd be able to see that. All right, so while I share my screen and it is coming up, A very good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all of you on the session today. And Alhamdulillah, we have had a session last time, and we discussed a lot many things on what exactly are the top skills and how exactly we need to work on those. We discussed a little bit about some attitudinal and skill based and knowledge based understanding onto that.
सो जा अरे ऐसा सो जा मैं बताता हूँ तो
May
छोड़
I
दो
request may I request others to go on mute, please, so that we can have some peaceful session here. So I hope you all can see my screen now. If that is okay, can you just confirm anyone?
No, sir.
Not yet.
No.
You can't
Okay.
see the screen.
Let me share that again. Here we go. Okay. You must be able to see now, I guess. Hope it is visible now. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. Very good. So I just disabled the video because there was some disturbance through the video for that. So I think most important thing is you need my voice and this presentation just to give it a kind of a visual here. So that should be fine. So good. Let us quickly get into the topic. So out of the 5 top skills that we discussed last time, effective business communication skill was one of that. And I told you the last time that effective business communication, or in general, communication skills, is the mother of all the soft skills. So I usually use this word called lead, which means to listen, to express, to assert, and to deliver. These are major attributes or major skills or major behaviors that we have to demonstrate to be professional and understand and communicate effectively. So with that, let me get into what exactly we are going to discuss today. Today, I want to keep it a little bit more generic in sense what exactly is communication and how exactly would be our approach to communication. Going forward, maybe we can discuss a little bit more in detail, more in specific, and more in medium of communication per se. So that we would be doing it. So just I wanted to know on the chat box if you could type in what exactly is your expectation. Rather, I would say, what would you like to take away from today's session within this 1 hour? Because 1 hour we cannot do training, we can only have an awareness session. If you want to do a training, we definitely need minimum 2 hours plus. However, if you look at this timing of 1 hour, what is that you're planning to take away from the session, knowing the topic effective business communication? So can I have your comments on the chat box, please? What is that you're looking from this session? Yes, let me see. What are your comments so far? What is that you want to take away from today's session? What is that is there in your mind when you hear the word effective business communication? What do you understand by that? Let's see. Communication skill. Amjad says communication skills. All right. Others, to learn to become industry skills needed. Okay. What else? What else? What else is on your mind when you see this word or hear this word effective business communication? Because the word communication is so commonly used, misused, abused, and amused that we somehow don't get into it detail. Presenting our business in a proper way. Okay, present. That's another very good way of putting it across. Presenting our business in a proper way, or in general, presenting yourself in a proper way. Because anything that you communicate is what people take you as. Very good. So let's keep that chatting open. Learn to present yourself. Very good. So what we will do today, we will focus on few elements of it. We'll understand how exactly we need to have the self exploration or the self awareness and people awareness around us. That's important while we communicate, because we're communicating with the people and with the people, and it is by the people, for the people, of the people, kind of a thing, like democracy. And we need to understand the why, what, and hows of communication. That's important. You remember the ask concept that we discussed last time. So we'll just touch upon that particular topic on what is ask and how it is useful, and the action points on 3V technique. What are the 3V techniques that we have in communication? And of course, the 5 Ps of practice, practice, practice with patience and passion. That's important. All right, with that said, let's dig into the topic here and see what is business communication and conversational competence in the English language. So, if you look at the business communication, the whole world is all about how do we communicate. Now, just imagine what would happen if you don't communicate for a day. Is that possible? Is it possible that we do not communicate for a whole day? The point is, we cannot not communicate. I repeat, we cannot not communicate. Even if you're not communicating, you're communicating that you're not communicating. So that is something about communication. So so if you just imagine how would it be, then you can see what would be the repercussions, what would be the impact on the whole world. So um, yes, so there is a message from the. Okay, that's a thank you for that message. Good. I believe that anybody who's not communicating with me or others, please go on mute, please. Thank you. And so, with that said, what happens is when we look at communication, would you get anything done if you don't communicate? If you don't communicate at office, if you don't communicate at home, what would happen? If you can just imagine the situation, it would be very difficult. You couldn't and wouldn't communicate, or wouldn't get the things done. And nobody knows what's happening, and nobody would feel like understanding it. So the whole world would go for a toss if we just imagine if we do not communicate. But the question is the new generation, the generation that we have now, is failing to communicate effectively in personal and professional life is a very big question. Though we seem like talking to each other, but are we communicating with each other? There's a huge difference between talking and communicating. Whatever you talk need not be a communication part of it, right? So you may just talk and people may not understand, or people may talk, you may not understand. So the question is, are we failing to communicate effectively in our personal and professional life? And that's the reason there are a lot of challenges in our personal life. There are a lot of challenges in our professional life. And we always wonder, where am I going wrong? What's happening? I don't understand. You see others' life and you just wonder why can't you do that like that? Why don't people talk to you like that? So we need to understand the fact that we need to ask our question, am I failing to communicate effectively and efficiently? That's important, and that's a $1 million question. Now, if you look at this part of effective communication, you would understand that there are a lot of elements to look into. Now, when we do not communicate in a right way, people will feel isolated, and it looks very ineffective if you do not have the right information. You may be talking, but you're not sharing the effective information. Somebody said that, to present your business view, present yourself in a proper way. If you do not have the information about yourself or about your business, the talk or the presentation may not be effective. So in order to make it effective, you need to be more informative. You need to be effective in your approach, in your presentation, in your delivery, and the message would go to the right direction, to the right people. Now, getting that message to the right people, to the right message in the right direction, we generally call it as effectiveness of the communication, isn't it? The right message to the right people at the right time in the right manner would give you a right result. So a lot of things there, and we see that there is a huge gap between understanding the right message and the gap in the communication. So let us quickly understand what exactly is communication and how is this ask concept would help us, which we discussed at length last time. Anybody remembers the ask concept? Let me see how many of you remember that. You can put it in the
Attitude,
chat
skill,
box.
knowledge.
Very good. Attitude, skill, and knowledge. Fantastic. So if you look at these three things are very, very, very important. And I told you last time also, communication is a behavior. It's a behavioral change. And in order to change a behavior, you need to have the knowledge, what exactly you need to do, and the skill sets, how to do it. But more importantly, the attitude drives your behavior, why you should do whatever you're doing. If there is no motivation for that, if you do not know why you're doing what exactly you've been asked to do, then you wouldn't do it in the way that you need to do. So attitude, which means you must know why I need to communicate effectively, and then you must know, in order to if communicate effectively, what is that I should do. So what to do is the knowledge part of it. Acquire knowledge, gain the content, gain the information. You must have information as well, the right message. And you must also know how to communicate, how to deliver that information, whether it is in person, over the mail, or over the phone, whether it is verbal or non-verbal. A combination of all those would definitely help there. May I request others to go on mute, please, because it's disturbing the session. So if you're not talking, please put your microphones on mute. That really helps. All right. So and your 90% would differ when we talk about your communication or overall, in the sense, overall behavior and an attitude, and how your attitude drives your behavior. How your attitude drives your behavior. If you see, your knowledge and skill is only about your 10% of your personality, whereas attitude is almost about 90% of your personality. So look at the judgments, the sentiments, the motives, the morals, the beliefs, the values, the ethics, the standards, the belief system. Overall, it impacts your behavior. And I told you communication is a behavior. So in order to make your behavior effective, it has to start from your mindset. If you're not clear in your thought process, you cannot be clear in your word process. If you have the flow of thoughts, you will have the flow of words. So you need to think through, you need to really contemplate a lot, you need to really read a lot. If you read more, you will have more content, you read from various perspectives, and definitely that has a huge impact on exactly what you do with your knowledge and skill. Now, if you look at this picture of the iceberg, which talks a lot about your social role, your self image, your motives, and your traits, your skill and knowledge. If you look at the skill and knowledge, it's just a byproduct. It's a byproduct of all what is there beneath that sea level. It is all about a person's inner self. Your self image starts from their person's sense of inner self. How you look yourself to be, how you look at your mirror and imagine you are. If you feel you are confident, you speak confidently. If you feel that you are not confident, and that definitely demonstrates in your voice, in your behavior, in your attitude, and people would feel like you are not confident. And traits, why and how we behave in a certain way, we must know that. Why do I do this? Why do I do this in a particular way? There is a book on this called your habits, a very good book called Habits, which talks about why do we do things in a way that we do. And I think that is a worth reading book that would give you a lot of details on how exactly our attitude and behavior would change, and what makes it change, and how we form the habits. So overall, if you look at it, our overall attitude drives the behavior. That's very important. We need to be self-aware. If we do not have the self-awareness, if we don't search it inside, and we always search from outside and think that if I join this session I will get communication skill, if I read this book I'll get the communication skill, if I talk to somebody I'll get the communication skill, that may definitely have some impact, but then that may not be the only thing that you have to do. You have to actually look within, inside yourself, and understand where do you stand. The soul searching, the self analysis, the self awareness is very, very, very important in order to communicate effectively and efficiently, because if the inner is confident, the outer would definitely be the confident thing. Let's understand a little in detail, in a very generic sense, in a very basic manner, who are you and what do you do? Let me ask these two questions to you. So if I ask this question to you, what do you say? Who are you? Let me ask you this question. Can you answer my question? Who are you? If I ask you this question, and what do you do? Anybody? Let's see what's your response to this. Who are you and what do you do? Just try to ask this question to yourself, and think what answer you get from within. It's more about introspection. It's more about looking within and ask this question, who am I really? Do you know yourself? Who you really think you are? What do you do? What makes you different from others? What exactly do you do? So let me ask these two questions again to you. So can anybody answer these questions? Any one of these, if you may like. Who are you, by the way, people? No response? You're not sure about who you are?
Basically,
I
it
am
comes
helper,
to
wants
my
to make
profession.
positive impact in lives of people and myself. Very good. Others? Others, who are you? Usman says, I'm a helper, wants to make positive impact in lives of people and myself. Very good. So he has actually answered in a way two questions in the statement to major extent. Anybody else would like to try this question on yourself? Because we need to ask this question. We don't ask the questions to ourselves. The major problem with ourselves is we don't coach ourselves. We coach everybody else. And the best way of coaching is asking questions, and asking WH questions, more importantly. And if we do not ask this question to ourselves, then I don't know, how would we be able to ask questions to others? Zubair says, this is Muhammad. I am an IT recruiter. I try connecting dots and help people find the right job. Good. Very good. So he's talking from a professional front. Mushtaq says, it come to me, to my profession and what I do. It could be anything. It could be anything. I'm just asking a very vanilla question. Who are you and what do you do? So these two questions are very, very, very important, and keep asking this question, and different context, it may mean different to you. You remember in the previous session, we had similar questions wherein I asked you, what is your life's purpose? Or what do you want to do in your life? Or how do you want to make an impact in your life? So things like that, you may ask like this question to yourself, and that would be a great answer. Every time you ask this question to yourself, you will have communication within. That is called intrapersonal communication. INTRA. Intra means within. We are all concerned about interpersonal communication skills, INTER, that is between or among the people. That will come later. Interpersonal skills will come later. First, we need to understand the intrapersonal, within your own person. So if you communicate within yourself effectively, you'll be able to communicate with others. You agree with me all? So do we communicate effectively with ourselves in general? What do you think? Yes, no, maybe? How often do we do that? Yes, right, Sad? So that is very important question. So please keep asking this question to yourself. Who are you and what do you do? Now let's look into this. Now, when you look at doing your best work, you get the answers to it, and you would really look at yourself and ask another question: who do you really are? And who is a, if you say that you are a professional from a professional front, what a professional does. Now, let's say that you're all members of Professional Solidarity Forum, right? PSF. Now, there is a word called professional. I think in our off-site resort that we were there, I tried to define this word called professional. And again, I would like to put it here. Who is a professional and what does a professional do? Now, that could be a lot of things that you may talk about, but let us see what you can recognize from these professions. So, can you recognize these people, these profession? Let us see the first, second, third, fourth. Yes, true. Very rare we talk about ourselves, right? Yes, the first one is a teacher. Okay. What is the second one? Architect. Oh, third one is the architect. Artist, last one. Okay, I understand. Doctor. Very good. Now, if you look at these, what do they do? Now, if I look at here, a teacher, a doctor, and an actor. So these are all the professionals. And what do they do about their professions? Can anybody let me know what exactly they're doing as a profession? What a teacher does, what a doctor does, what an engineer does, what an actor does, or what is common among all of these people, or maybe different in these people. What do you think? What a teacher does, what a doctor does. They're achieving what they dream of. Okay, perhaps. But then how are they achieving that? Make themselves living, okay? Helping the society through what? What are they helping the society with? What are they helping the society with? What are they doing? Service with the talent and learnings. Very good. So if you look at it, um, there are a lot of things here, right? So if you look at what special they do, the the answer to this question is they also sell. They sell. They sell a lot of things. You may be wondering, what do they sell? They sell the knowledge, they sell the service, they sell the talents, they sell the creativity. A teacher sells the knowledge, and you've got service from the doctor, you've got talent from the architect, you have got the creativity from the artist. So they are all selling, and they're all salespeople. Do you agree? So they're all salespeople. We are all salespeople. So now, what do you do? My question is to you. Sell something similar, isn't it? You're also a salesperson, if you believe or not, but we are all salespeople. We sell something or the other. If we are not selling anything, we sell ourselves without selling ourselves out. People don't buy our thoughts, buy our concepts. People do not buy the things unless we sell it in a proper way. So you don't sell the products and services, to be honest. You sell yourself without selling yourself out. But the question is, you sell something similar but something different. You sell something very precious. Now, what do you think you sell? What do you think you sell as a professional? What do you think you sell? Time. All right. Okay, time and learning. All right. What else do you sell as a professional? You may be working in IT, non-IT, sales, marketing, medical, travel, hospitality. It could be any industry, isn't it? You sell the skill sets. Okay. What else? What else do you sell? Now, if I look at this one, we all sell something similar. You sell someone your experiences that you have in your life. You sell your one's life's precious learnings that you have through your experience. And that's how I'm sharing here some of my experience. You share some of your experiences and the learnings as well. Is someone your life's meaning. You sell to someone your life's meaning to them. Maybe to your clients, your customers, to your colleagues, to your friends, to your family. We're all selling. You sell someone your source of inspiration. You inspire them, you motivate them, you give them the reason to be. So we are all selling, but we don't realize that we are all salespeople. We are salesperson by birth. We start selling. There is a saying, a crying baby gets the milk. Unless the baby cries, the mother wouldn't feed her or him. So what the baby is doing, it's selling by crying the emotions. That's called emotional selling. So so we all are salespeople, and when we go to the interview, we also sell. We sell our skill sets, our experience to the interviewer, and the interviewer sells the company to us. It makes us convinced that why it is important for you to join them, why not others. So we are all salespeople by default. If we understand this, you all sell the creativity, innovation, skills, talent, ideas, solutions. All these things we sell. Now, the question is, if you're selling all these great ideas and experiences and precious learnings, and if you don't sell it well, how wastage of the entire skill sets. It's so important to understand what is that we need to sell all these things. So we need effective communication to sell across all these things too. And when we look at this communication part of it, there are four major skills under effective communication that we need to look into. One is your verbal and non-verbal, your body language and the words, how you listen and question people. If you have to give a lot of importance, especially in terms of understanding people and communicating effectively, listening and questioning is a great skill to have, and it will take a lot of time to master this. It's not easy. We think it's simple, but it's simple at the same time, very very crucial, and it takes a lot of time to master that. Empathy, in order to understand people. If you do not understand people, if you don't think from their perspective, if you don't understand their situation, whatever we may say, it may not be relevant. And being assertive, assertiveness is a skill that needs people to express your thoughts without hampering others views and opinions and their rights to express. So not being aggressive and not being submissive, being assertive is a balance, it's a trade off. So these are the major four skills in effective business communication that we need to really focus on. So let me take a pause here, and let me see if you have any questions so far. Any questions that you have so far? Are we good so far? Are you understanding? Are you following? Where am I coming from? I'm laying the foundation for the importance of communication and what exactly is the meaning of communication, and probably I'll go a little deeper after this. So any questions for now? Yes, no, maybe? Can I have the responses on the chat box or over the mic if you want to unmute your line and talk? All right, very good, fantastic. So we have got about 20 participants here. Good, good going. I hope you're all understanding. All right, good. The question is how to overcome intra weakness. Mushtaq, do you mean intra weakness means your inner weakness, internal weakness? What kind of weakness are you? Could you be a little bit more specific, please? You want to unmute your line and talk? Please do so. Please unmute your line
like
and
means
talk, or you
communication,
want to type
like
in, just be a little bit more
like
specific so that I can answer your question there.
like mean
You
an
mean
inability
intra,
of
I understand you
communication,
mean the internal
inability
thing,
of
but internal
knowledge.
weakness in the sense what, confidence, internal weakness of communication,
Yes,
or what exactly do you mean?
communication and confidence
Your
both.
spiritual weakness, your
Communication
social
as well as
weakness, your emotional weakness, your physical weakness. Because there could be a lot of weaknesses, right? So just be a little bit more specific so that we can talk about it. All right. So let's see how exactly we can get into it. So you remember last time we also discussed this competency, or the components of communication competency. Just like ASK, ask concept, we have got knowledge, skill, and motivation. Unless you have the motivation to talk, unless you know why you are talking and speaking and communicating, you wouldn't be able to understand. Yes, communication and confidence. So sure, I'll be talking more about it. But as I told you, keep asking questions to yourself, keep challenging yourself, keep asking, because many a times we have that apprehension, we have that fear of confidence and communication because we don't know what we are afraid of. You just ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What happens if I go wrong? What happens if I make a mistake? What the worst could happen? Ask yourself this question over and over and over again, and you will see that nothing much. What would happen? People may laugh. That's it. Anything more? That's it. They're not going to shoot you. They're not going to blast you. They're not going to throw you out, isn't it? Nothing worse would happen. The worst that could happen is they may just laugh at you and say, hey, he doesn't know how to talk. That's okay. Because some point in time, even they did not know how to talk, and we are all here to learn. So the more you ask yourself, you will understand the answers are pretty simple, and slowly you will build up that confidence, and slowly you will see that you're not alone. Slowly you will see that everybody has got a learning curve, and slowly you will see that that is how human evolution happens. That's how we grow. That's a part of our growth. So keep asking the question to yourself, and that will remove your inner weakness if you mean that. Look at the habit formation. We also discussed this in our previous session, how the habits are formed. This is taken from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. And these are the 3 components. Again, skill and knowledge are there. And I combine the desire here. If you do not have the desire, the motivation, the motivational component, in just the other form of the thing that I've just shown it to you, so you need to have this knowledge, skill, and motivation. The same thing, knowledge, skill, and desire to do something. You need to know what to do, how to do, why to do, and how exactly you wanted to do it, and why you wanted to do that. The reason behind. So then you will get the habit of communication. So if you do not have that, if you feel that, come on, leave it, let's not get into it. If you start speaking in English and people say, "Arey, kya hai bhai, Angrez ki aulad ho gaye kya?" and we just keep it and we leave it, right? So language is nobody's nobody's asset. Language is a language. Urdu doesn't belong to only Muslims, Telugu doesn't belong to only Hindus, and English doesn't belong to only Christians. So let's not segregate or tag languages with the religions. It has got nothing to do with it. It has got nothing to do with the region as well. Nowadays, English particularly, now English is not for the people of English or the England. English is international. So if you want to be an international citizen, you need to speak in English in an international manner. So I'll just get into that component of language just in a while. So here we see the inside out paradigm of communication. You see, the ultimate thing that we communicate with is the language, isn't it? And there could be 30% of verbal and roughly about 70% of non-verbal. What is that? We'll dig deeper in a while, but then in order to get to the language, we need to have communication. In order to have communication, I told you communication is a behavioral change. You need to have a change in the behavior. That means your knowledge and skill. And in order to have the change in the behavior, you need to have the paradigm shift in the attitude, because attitude drives your behavior, and that comes from your perception. Perception is the angle through which you see things, the way you see things. If you start changing the way you think, changing the way you see, that means you change your perception, you change your perspective. The more you change your perspectives, your opinions change. If your opinions change, your belief system will change. If your belief system will change, that's your attitude. Attitude is a belief system. Your attitude will change. If your attitude changes, and it impacts your behavior. If there is a change in the behavior in the positive side, you communicate the behavior in an effective way, and you try to use language to communicate. And if you have the command on the language that you want to of the language, it is also the overall behavioral element. All right. So the question remains, what is communication, by the way? Can anybody define communication? Let's see here. Very basic question, very fundamental question. Can anybody define communication? Others who are not talking, could you please go on mute, please? All right. So can anybody define communication? Ability to express yourself, interaction. Mhm. What else? Expressing thoughts, the act of sharing facts, ideas, and thoughts. Very good. Very good. Making understanding of our intention to others. Very good. Understanding is a keyword. Lovely. So let us quickly see there are two elements when we define communication. Now, I want to talk about these two elements very, very clearly. Number one is communication is a common system. We need to understand this. This is a common system. This is a common framework. So if you do not get into the common system, then you are speaking in your own system, and only you and your people of the system can understand. So in order to communicate effectively, you need to have a common system. But the question is, common system of what? A common system of interaction. You see, there is a word called inter and action. That means inter means between, and there is some action. So there is something going on. It's a two-way process. It's not a one-way process. So communication is a common system of interaction through what? It could be through the signs, which is nonverbal. It could be through the symbols, which could also be nonverbal. It could be through the expressions and behaviors, your body language, your gestures, your postures, your expressions, which is also nonverbal. And you may also communicate through your verbal words, which is verbal. And you know the difference between communication and conversation? Many people get confused here. So the verbal communication is conversation. I repeat, the verbal communication is conversation. Conversation is a part of communication, and communication could be verbal and nonverbal. So anything that you do in speaking, in phonetics, in voice, in clarity, in diction, in pronunciation, in articulation, is to do with a conversation. And communication is to do with your body language, gestures, postures, expressions, along with your words and choice of word. So the art of speaking is conversation. What is conversation? It's the art of speaking. So we need to master both the art of speaking and the art of your body language, your signs, symbols, expressions, and behavior, and that entire combines your communication. As you rightly said, it's an exchange of ideas, feelings, or information, either by speaking or by expressions or by behaviors or even in writing could be communication. So that's the reason I said in the beginning, what all you talk need not be communication. But in order to communicate, you need to have understanding. If you do not have understanding, then you're not communicating. You're doing something else. So the most important thing about your writing or your speech is, as there is a saying, a writer writes not because he's educated, but he is driven by the need to communicate and share and to be understood. If you're not understanding any book or any writing or any email, or if you're not understanding any speech or any talk, then that person is not sharing, not educating, not making you understand, then that is not communication. It could be something else, but not communication. So understand, communication doesn't mean that whatever you know you speak. Communication means to check whether people are understanding you. If you do not understand, it's not communication. That is the reason many a times in most of our relationships, especially the personal relationship, we have a huge challenge because we don't understand the importance of understanding first before they understand you. We always complain Do you understand me? You never understand me. You talk to your spouse like that, to your children like that, to your siblings like that, to your parents like that, to your friends like that, to your boss like that, to your colleagues like that. And we always complain, hey, they never understand me. But the question is, have you tried understanding them first? That's $1 million question that I want to leave you with. Think about it. Have you understood them first? All right, so once we have understood the definition and the bigger context of communication, let us now understand what is the medium of communication. How do we communicate? So, what is the meaning of medium? It could be a channel, it could be a bridge, it could be way and path and procedure. And that is, can anybody tell me what's the medium of communication? Let's see. What is the medium of communication? How do we communicate? What do we use to communicate? Sound. Only that? What else? What is the medium of communication? So the medium of communication is language. Absolutely. That's right, Aisha. Absolutely. Language. Now, it could be any language, isn't it? So it could be verbal or non-verbal. There are two types of languages. We have got verbal and non-verbal. For example, oral language is your verbal, voice, as you said, and your non-verbal is your body language, where you use your gestures and postures and expressions. For example, your spoken language is your verbal communication, and your written language is non-verbal. Many people, they have this question and a doubt, and they consider written to be verbal. No, written is non-verbal. As long as there is a voice, means verbal. If there is no voice, it's non-verbal. Got it? Simple definition. Now, when you look at your verbal and non-verbal, there are standard verbal language and a non-standard verbal language. But when you look at the standard language, any standard language like English, Urdu, Telugu, anything like that, they would have two strong media. One is a spoken medium, another is written medium. Now, that's the reason if you want to learn English, you go for spoken English, isn't it? Have you ever thought why it is called spoken English? Why it is not called speaking English? Because they're talking about the spoken medium of communication. But to be honest, whatever people sell as part of spoken English, it's actually an advanced learning of English, and they're not actually doing it. They're training you in turn written English, the grammar, and that is only the basic. Spoken English is an advanced language training which includes phonetics, phonology, pronunciation, intonation, accent, a lot of things like that. All right. May I request please people to go on mute? And non-verbal. Can anybody tell me what do we have in these body language and non-verbal? What do we get here? Let's see. How many of you recognize this part and importance of it? What do we get in the non-verbal? What do we have in non-verbal? Gestures. Very good. How do you pronounce this word? It is not gesture. It is gestures. Gestures, posture, and expressions. Expressions are facial expressions. Very good. Very good. Very good. So this is how we go about it. Well, we'll see that in detail, but let us quickly understand a little bit more about global lingua franca. Since we're talking about English here, maybe we can do a lot of sessions on this if anybody requires this English language training and proficiency, especially those who are preparing for IELTS or TOEFL or anything like English as an international testing system. We can definitely do a full-fledged session on that, maybe on IELTS or TOEFL or something like that. I think IELTS is popular now, and that needs this foundation. Trust me, if you do not have this foundation, because I've seen many institutes on IELTS, they straight away start from the practice part of it, and they don't give the foundation. Wherein if you do not have the foundation, you cannot crack IELTS. You would still be around 5-6 bands. In order to get 7 and above, you need to know the foundations, and that's how you can use a very clear structure. Well, in the standard language, we have got the spoken medium and the written medium, as I told you. And spoken medium has got two processes, one input, another output process. What do we do in the spoken? What is common between listening and speaking? It is spoken medium, isn't it? When you do the listening and speaking, it's spoken. Now, what is common between listening and speaking? Can anybody tell me what is common here? What is common between listening and speaking? Because one is an input process, another is an output process. What is common here? Let's see. How many of you identify this? Very simple. How do you listen? What do you listen to? And how do you speak? What do you speak with? Yes, but then what is that medium we are using here? Collection of information. But how do you transfer that collection of information? How people understand? What do they do to understand? What do they perceive to understand? What is that you're sending and receiving? In listening and speaking, what is that you're sending and receiving? What is common? Yeah, it's communication. Yeah, it's message. In what form? What is the form of the message? What is the form of the communication?
It's basically language, character set by which we form a word. Word becomes a
Which part of
sentence.
the
Sentence
language?
becomes
No, that's okay. But what are you doing now? Now, who is it who's speaking
Voice,
now?
sir. Voice.
Sadat.
Sadat. So what you're doing with me? You were typing earlier, and then you unmute your line, and you're talking to me, isn't it? What medium are you using?
Verbal.
Very good.
I am
Sound.
not
Sound
This is
Very
medium.
good.
verbal.
Yes,
Sound.
that
Sound
means
medium.
English.
exactly,
What?
exactly. We are using the voice, isn't it? So the common thing between speaking and listening is voice. If your voice and accent is not clear, if your diction is not clear, if your pronunciation is not clear, if your articulation is not clear, you cannot understand, you cannot make people understand. You got my point? So in spoken, there is listening and speaking, and the common thing here is a voice and accent. Now, in the written medium, it is one input process, another output process. How do you take things? Input is reading. And how do you write? Output is writing. What is common in these two? You need to, in order to read and write, you need something called structure, isn't it? The structure part of it, the grammar and vocabulary. It's the structure of the language. In other words, I can say spoken medium is the skeleton, it's the body, and spoken medium is the soul of the body. Now, what happens if there is a body but no soul? It is called a dead body. And the verse is, what if there is a soul but no body? That is called a ghost. Even worse. So we need to have both the body and the soul, the spoken and the written medium. Now, the question, what do we get in it? I'm just going quickly onto this part. In the voice and accent of the diction that we get is we need to have the clarity of the diction and the pronunciation, the intonation, the voice modulation, the liaison, the pitch, the rhythm, the volume, the clarity of the tone. All these things will help you communicate effectively through the spoken medium, that is listening and speaking. So for example, in IELTS, your first section is listening and your last section could be speaking, or it could also be the first section before the test starts. It could be a day before and after speaking. So these are two major things wherein actually you can score 9 out of 9 bands, to be honest. Very simple, listening 20 minutes and speaking
Spoken
for, sorry, somebody's asking something. I'm not sure because the voice is not clear. Can you say that again, please? Or you can type in because the voice is not clear. All right. So let's look into the written medium. What do we get in the grammar and vocabulary? The parts of speech, the tenses, the speeches, the direct and indirect speech, the active and the passive voices, the types of sentences, the phraseology, and you've got idiomatic phrases, and you've got punctuation, all these to do with the structure. If you ask me what do you need to focus on the language, this one slide is a summary. This one slide is a summary. I have put together all these things based on my experience and understanding and my teaching on LSRW, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, which is a foundation sub skills for any international English language testing system. It could be test of English as a foreign language like TOEFL, or IELTS as an international English language testing system, or PTE, Pearson Test of English, because I'm a certified master trainer from all these three, and I train a lot of trainers on training how to train on IELTS, TOEFL, and PTE. So with that experience, alhamdulillah, I'm just trying to put it together here, a kind of a slide which will help you to understand it further, and maybe it's a subject by itself. I know we need a lot of things to do it, and this is just another way to do it. So what I'll give it to you today is, many people have a question: how can we enhance our language, and what is that tool and technique that you would like to give? I never give the tips and tricks because they never work. tips and tricks are very particular and they may work for a particular person in a particular way. I would rather give you tools and techniques which could be very simple and you can do it consistently, rigorously, vigorously, and continuously to get the results, inshallah. All right, so we'll get into that details, but before that, let us quickly understand the purpose of communication. So we need to ask these three questions. What is communication that we have just discussed? How should I communicate so that others understand me? And how should I listen so that I understand others? Because it's a two-way communication. And the whole communication would go through a lot of stages, isn't it, in our mind. We receive an information, we try to interpret that information, that remember it as a random access memory, short-term memory, and we try to evaluate and use our internal filters. What are internal filters? Maybe we can discuss in next time in our, because there's a lot of things from NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and a lot of mindset changes that happen, and how do we respond. So NLP is again another fantastic tool and technique to use in order to communicate effectively. That's a longer, bigger subject. Maybe we can discuss as another session on that, inshallah. Now, quick basics. As we know, we have got two types of communication: verbal and non-verbal. And again, in the verbal, we have got words, tone of voice, rhythm, stress, volume. When I say stress, it is not the stress on your brain. It's a stress on your tongue, on your airflow. That means a pressure through which you talk. That's a stress, or the accent that we call it as. So if you look at it, the original words that we use, it constitute about 7% of your communication. And how you say, that means what you say is only about 7%, and how you say is 38% of our communication. And as you know, the remaining 55% is your nonverbal gestures, postures, and expression. So you can imagine how important it is also to work on your nonverbal as well as your vocal cords, your voice clarity and the diction and articulation in order to be an effective speaker, effective communicator, presenter, and overall a salesman. So in order to be a great salesperson, you need to have a greater command on the language and the way you communicate. So written communication is more used for your formal communications like your emails and letters. I don't know whether we are still using the letters, but it is more authoritative, it is more documented, it is more legal, and hence we have to be more careful while we are doing it. So in a nutshell, this is the spread about a verbal and nonverbal communication, about which is spread across your words, your voice modulation, and your body language. When we look at the input output process, which I told you is a framework for IELTS, for TOEFL, for Pearson test of English, or for that matter, if you go for any foreign universities, or if you're going on job to some other countries, the first thing that will test you, like global English, they test you on these four parameters: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So if you understand these four sub skills of the language, then you would get it. Because if you don't do it, we generally, what we do, we do a lot of reading and writing and one day batting. From the beginning, we have been taught to read and write in school. पढ़ना लिखना है ना, इसलिए हम पढ़े लिखे हैं, हम बोले सुने नहीं हैं, हम पढ़े लिखे हैं इसलिए हम पढ़ना लिखना करते हैं. Reading writing, not listening and speaking. But if you don't do listening and speaking, and we do only reading and writing, when you get to the corporate world and people say that, hey, reading and writing is very minimum, listening and speaking is very important. And then we say, oh my God, have I concentrated on listening and speaking from my childhood? I would have been great here. But unfortunately, we don't teach listening and speaking in our schools to that extent. I think people have started now. So if you look at this reading, LSRW, reading and listening is your input processes. You understand? Reading and listening are your input processes. When you listen, you take the information in. When you read a book, you take the information in. And speaking and writing, what is that? Can you guess? Speaking and writing? Any guess? Is it input? Is it what else it is?
Output.
Yes, it is. It's an output process. My question to all of you, very simple question. I know that you all know the computers, right? Input, output process. Now, can you tell me, if you do not have an effective input, can you have an effective output?
No.
No, it's not possible.
Dinesh? It's not possible at all. Computer runs on the concept called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, GIGO. That means whatever you give it as an input, accordingly it processes and gives the output. If the input is not qualitative, the output is bound not to be qualitative. For the same reason, everybody is concerned about the output. Everybody comes to me and say, hey, how shall I speak effectively? How can I write my effective email? It's all about output. But understand, my dear friends, you cannot have the output unless you have an input effectively. We do not work on the input and we want to get the output. Output is a byproduct. Trust me, you get effective speaking and effective writing if you invest time on your effective reading and effective listening. I mean it, and I repeat it, and I endorse it, and I recommend it on the top of my voice that reading and listening is very, very, very important, because the more input you give, the better output you can get. And the effectiveness, it depends on how effectively you give input, that effectively you get the output. Now the question, how should I do that? How should I give input so that I can get the output? Now, if you look at it here in the corporate world in general, in our life as well, we spend a very little time in writing and very little time in reading after school and college, I guess. I hope you all understand. Predominantly, we are using these two media. One is a listening and speaking, one input, another output. For example, even this presentation, for the last 1 hour, I think we have been talking, listening and speaking, and the presentation written part and the reading part is very minimum. Either you're typing in some keywords on the chat box, or you are seeing something on my presentation. But if you see in this presentation, there is only picture and some words here and there, but majority it is you're listening and speaking, you're speaking and I'm listening, things like that. So if that is the major segment, why don't we focus on that? And that means we need to also understand our nonverbal communication, because communication is the way we interact with the fellow human beings, and human beings come with a lot of emotions. If we do not have emotions, if we do not acknowledge the emotions, and emotions are communicated with our voices, and hence voice becomes very, very, very important. If you look at the professional body language, there are a lot of things into it: the eye contact, the facial expression, the gestures, the postures, and the movements. And all these things constitute your confident image, your professional image. And in order to get that, you need to use it in a very effective manner. Now, that's a topic by itself, but let me give it to you a 3V technique. As you know that we are looking at 7% verbal, 38% vocal, and 55% visual. So it's called verbal, vocal, visual. Now, verbal is the choice of words. Be very clear on the choice of words in order to have the impact on communication. That's called the verbal. When I say the vocal, it's a tone of voice, because you communicate the emotions through your voice. You communicate a lot of feelings through your voice. And visuals, the third V is the visual, is your body language. And body language constitutes your gestures, postures, and expressions. This is called the 3V technique. And if we have these things, you will definitely work. Let me give an example. Let's say you only get a transcript, a written transcript about my lecture. You only get a PDF form wherein it is only written transcript of my lecture. Versus you also get a voice audio of my lecture. Which one do you think would be understood by you more? A combination of verbal and vocal, or only verbal? Which one would be more convenient and easy for you to understand? The text plus voice, or only text?
Text plus voice.
Exactly, right? Verbal and vocal both. Now, what if I also add the visuals to it? I also give you the PPTs along with my verbal as a background voiceover, and the PPT that I'm sharing right now, and also I'm using my voice and text and everything, all three. Don't you think it would be better further? Exactly.
Then
More expressive.
it will be very clear.
Absolutely. So that is very, very important. For example, if you see, I didn't say that he stole the car. I'm just taking this as an example. Can you tell me what's the meaning of it? Just by seeing it. I didn't say that he stole the car. What's the meaning of it? What do you mean by saying this? I didn't say that he stole the car. What do you mean by that?
Means that I'm not making somebody responsible for that one, for
Is it you're
stealing the
not
car.
making somebody responsible, or you're saying that he is not the one who stole? What could it be?
Yeah, like that. Yeah, yeah. It's
Okay.
not stole the car.
It could be anything, isn't it? If I just leave it to you with a statement which is written, verbal, I didn't say that he stole the car, then you wouldn't know the meaning. Let us see the way I say it, the way I use a voice. Now observe my voice. Each time I say, I mean different. And what am I doing? I'm stressing something called a stress on each word, and that will give you a different meaning. Now, that's called inflection. Now, for example, if I say, I didn't say he stole the car, that means it is not I who said it. I didn't say that he stole the car. That means so far I didn't say it. I may say it. I didn't so far. I didn't say that he stole the car. I just thought about it. I did not say it. I just thought. I didn't say that he stole the car. I was talking about something else, not about he stealing the car, he stealing the car, or something else. I was speaking about something else. I didn't say that he stole the car. It was somebody else, not him. I didn't say that he stole the car. He asked me the permission. He did not steal it. I didn't say that he stole the car. It was some other car, not this car. I didn't say that he stole the car. He stole the bike. How many meanings? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 words, 8 different way of saying it, and 8 different meaning. Is the statement changing? Are the words changing? They're not. What is changing? The volume, the voice, the vocal, the tone, the timbre, the rhythm, the pitch. The moment you change your voice, you change your meaning. That's the reason I always say that fill the words with a feeling, because without feeling, there is no meaning. The words without feeling, they don't have any meaning. All right. So fill the words with a feeling, then you will have meaning. All right, so that's how it goes. Now, so let us quickly see. I think I just wanted to cover one more last element, but before that, I think we have already reached to that time. I may need another couple of minutes to close it. But any questions so far that you have that you would like to discuss, see, understand, ask? Are we clear so far here? Any questions that you have? Okay, so I believe that you don't have any questions so far. All right, let me go ahead again with this. Another maybe 5-10 minutes, we'll close it. All right, so now how do we establish credibility? Very important. We need to have the conviction. As I told you, first of all, you need to believe in yourself. You need to have a lot of self intra communication. Then being self-assured, you need to gain that confidence first about yourself and gain the confidence of the audience, and that you can get with the effective communication, the voice clarity, the diction. The more you have it, the more confidence you build up. The point is, you won't have the confidence unless you have the content. If you have the content, you would automatically build up the confidence in a way, and then definitely the more you practice the content, you would have it. Of course, you need to have the enthusiasm as well, the passion to convey. As I told you, communication is an attitude, it's a behavior. So you need to have that passion and enthusiasm what you're communicating with. If I do not put an energy and enthusiasm and passion into my session, I don't think you would be listening for an hour. Maybe after 10-15 minutes you would say, okay, let's switch off. So that's important. There is something called an elevator pitch. I would recommend you all to use this as your kind of yardstick to check whether you are really effectively communicating. Take any topic, maybe introduction about yourself, and see within 1 minute can you introduce yourself to anybody. This is called an elevator pitch. There is a history behind it because in the olden days, when the salespeople used to go and meet the business clients or the prospects, they wouldn't used to get the not even olden days. Why not now as well? So it's a very common thing, isn't it? So it has come from the New York Manhattan. Manhattan is the busiest place in New York, and Manhattan is a place wherein you've got all the business blocks there. So the sales guys used to go there and wait at the elevator. The moment the prospective client or the potential customer used to get into the elevator, they used to get along with them because they would not have any way to get out of it, isn't it? So at least they would get about another 45 to 50, 60 seconds with that person and they cannot run away. And then they used to use that time to have that powerful pitch, and that is called an elevator pitch. And you can imagine, if you have to sell it, at least to buy an appointment, you get 60 seconds to buy an appointment from somebody, how much effective it has to be, how much powerful it has to be, that people say, impressive, okay, need to be in my office next Friday, for example. Bingo, you got the objective done. So from that it has come called the elevator pitch. So I would strongly recommend you all just think that you're getting into an elevator pitch, you are getting into an elevator, and there is a CEO, maybe Google CEO or Microsoft CEO, some giant company organization CEO, or somebody that you always wanted to have a discussion and impress. So think that that person is getting into an elevator and you've got only 30 or you say 60 seconds, and he asks you a question. Who are you? What will you say to him to make an impact? I will leave this with this question to all of you. How can you have an elevator pitch with the person that you would like to impress? And for that matter, create this 1 minute elevator pitch. If possible, try to record it, video record it, audio record it, do it multiple ways on your phone. Stand in front of the mirror and video record it, or ask somebody, your friend or family member, to record your introduction for 1 minute. Prepare it well, make a script, but don't try to read it out. Try to see the major points and see how you can practice it and see if you have a fantastic elevator pitch for a minute. So are you ready with the elevator pitch? With that, I'm leaving you all today with this question. If somebody asks you, who are you? What will you say to him to make an impact? That exactly connects to our question in the beginning that I asked you, who you really are and what do you do? Hope we have connected the dots. Thank you so much for today's session. I hope that you have had some takeaways from the session. Looking forward if you have any questions, and I can answer that. Do we have a class tomorrow also? No, we generally have sessions on Sundays, and depends on how is the schedule. So please get in touch with Nadeem and team from PSF. We generally have a lot of Sunday sessions from PSF, and we try to cover various topics through this. So yes, so please connect with the organizer, and they would be able to help you with the schedules on that. Thank you so much. Wa iyyakum. Wa jazakumullahu khair. Anytime. Thanks, Nadeem and Haris. Back to you.
Yeah, myself, Haris. Thanks for the participants who have joined and given their time and attended the session. So now, right now, I'm ending the session. Thank you.